Hey guys, welcome back. Guess what? This is our very last video lesson of the year, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to try to guide you on what you need to write on your graphic organizer so that you can get through this quickly and painlessly. All right, so causes of human population growth. So the first cause was the agricultural revolution, and this is where people settled in communities where they were able to organized a division of labor, so that created a reliable food source. Prior to this, we had mostly nomadic people, and so the agricultural revolution is when we gathered together and divided jobs. After that, long after that, we experienced the Industrial Revolution, and that happened in it started in the late 19th century, but into the early 20th century, where we started to see improvements in medicine, sanitation, and also this allowed for an increased birth rate and a decreased death rate. So cause number 2 is Industrial Revolution. And the last cause is urbanization. That's the development of large cities. And that allowed for economic and social development, and that has greatly influenced our population. What are the effects of human population growth? One is increased pollution, so in all areas, air, water, and land. Pollutants are as waste products from human activities, such as all those listed there. Also, solid waste requires disposal in landfills or incineration. There's a lot that has to go on, and it creates a nasty, remnants. Next, we have decreased natural resources, especially those that are non-renewable, such as fossil fuels, minerals, and metals. Okay, fossil fuels, once we use them, we don't get them back because they're made very slowly. So that is our second effect. And the last effect is increased land use. So we're taking up, as humans, more land, and we're taking, therefore, the habitats from other species. All right, census data. We're going to look here at how demographers construct these graphs to describe growth over time. All right, so you're going to need to sketch these. So our first graph here that says rapid growth of Kenya is showing a country that is growing in population. We would call it a developing nation. You see as that that it is getting big very rapidly. We would call that our J curve. All right, and then in the middle we have slow growth in the United States. So you notice in the age we are slowly growing and getting larger, but it's very slow, not nearly as rapid as Kenya. And then we here have negative growth in Germany, and you notice that there are fewer people born in 1990 through 1994 than were born in the 60s. And so there's a slight negative growth. And that's actually true for a lot of European nations. All right, so what are our solutions to this? One is zero population growth. This is where birth rate needs to equal the death rate. This has happened in China. They offered tax incentives, and actually at one point they only allowed one child per family. The second thing is they can offer birth control and family planning to get zero population growth. And also we need to educating the public and political leaders about the need for zero population growth. Next is conservation. So we need to have wise and careful use of our resources. So this is an interesting fact. 20% of the world's population uses more than 50% of the world's resources. And that's happening in developed nations like the United States. People in developed countries need to decrease their resource use by using the 3 R's. You've heard it before: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So those are ways that we can decrease our resource use. The third solution is using sustainability. That's ensuring the availability of resources for future generations. So how can we go about doing that? Using sustainable resources that can be used over and over again. All right, so how does this apply to North Carolina? All right, so first, global warming. So global warming is caused by excessive greenhouse gases such as CO2 and CH4 in the atmosphere that trap heat. So excessive greenhouse gases, they trap the heat and they cause the Earth's surface temperature to rise. CO2 comes from burning fossil fuels, and CH4 comes from bacteria in landfills and cow farts. And yes, that is written there, cow farts. All right, the next thing, the effects of global warming. A small increase in temperature of just 2 to 4 degrees can change weather patterns all around the world. It can cause the polar ice caps to melt, and thermal expansion will occur. That causes flooding of coastal cities, contamination of drinking water, lots of different things. That's the effects of our problems of global warming. All right. And particularly in North Carolina, beach erosion occurs. So the sea level is directly related to the climate. So as the polar ice caps melt, that water has to go somewhere, and it goes and it floods the beaches. So in North Carolina, the sea level is slowly rising. Rising sea level causes the beaches to erode, and it also increases severe storms such as hurricanes and global climate change. So if we look at this lovely picture here, we can see that the beach is very close to those homes. Coastal residents are also trying to prevent beach erosion, and this is causing problems in the environments and the ecosystems at the beach. We're not protecting our beaches. Those are our whole ecosystem. All right, now let's move on to acid precipitation or acid rain. It is acid precipitation because it could be snow, hail, any of those things. So the cause is harmful emissions from cars and factories, especially nitrous oxide and sulfur oxide, and it causes the water to be acidic or generally a pH less than 5.6. So acid rain formation, you can see here it comes from factories and cars. It goes up into the atmosphere, and then when the moisture condenses, it becomes rain. So it's not just what is happening here in the United States, but also what's in other countries will affect people across different country boundaries. All right, the effects. The lowered pH, it can disrupt aquatic ecosystems. It can make soil less fertile. It can harm plants, and it can damage human property. Look at all the dead fish. All right, how does this affect North Carolina? The red spruce and Fraser fir trees in the mountains are dying because of acid rain, and that damages the ecosystem. And the mountains are especially affected because the soil has such a low buffering capacity. That's the ability to resist changes in pH. And in the mountains, it's called the Great Smoky Mountains because of the continuous fog. So we have an acid fog, and that makes the damage even. All right, let's look at water quality and water pollution. This cause is often begins on land. It's oil from cars, sediments from naked land. That means if you don't have grass or something planted, the soil and other sediments will run off. And also fertilizers from lawns. Other sources include illegal chemical dumping, acid rain, overheated water from power plants, raw sewage. All of those things are causing water quality issues. All right, what's the effect of this? We have a lack of clean drinking water. A lack of clean drinking water is the leading cause of disease, such as cholera, dysentery, and typhoid. You'd think you'd never hear that, but it is happening. Also, water pollution is destroying many ecosystems. Look at that nasty water. All right, waste lagoons. How is this affecting North Carolina? All right, North Carolina approximately raises 7 million hogs on industrial farms. Well, all those hogs, they poop and give off waste. And so what they've done is they've pumped them into these pools, these lagoons, and these will run off, leak, and often spill into surface water and rainfall. It's disgusting. But if we want to eat pork and all those things, we've got to balance what we're doing. All right, So sewage and surface water leads to high levels of disease-causing bacteria such as E. coli, oxygen-depleting organic matter, hormones, bacteria. Also, the nitrogen that is used in fertilizers can run off and can contribute to outbreaks of what's called Pfiesteria. It's an algae that produces a deadly neurotoxin. And this can massively kill fish, but it can cause problems in fishermen and humans too. All right, so how are humans negatively impacting other species? So I think you've seen some of that, but let's look at this a little bit more. First, we're affecting biodiversity. We are decreasing the number of different species on this earth, okay? And the genetic diversity within a species is also decreasing, so you don't see as wide of a variety of certain types of birds or certain types of ants. So what's causing this? One is habitat destruction. We're taking over. We're causing deforestation, fragmentation, pollution, all these problems. Urban development is also causing biodiversity loss. We're taking down all the trees to build houses. Also, forests are fragmented because they're broken up into smaller zones because of construction or fields or all those different things. So fragmentation. And also clearing of land to meet for development causes soil erosion, which ultimately leads to water pollution. And an increase in impervious structures, those are concrete structures, anything asphalt and concrete, increases water runoff and pollution. I'm making this just after a night of a lot of rain, and I floated my car through a giant puddle on Tyvola Road because of runoff. We don't have as many places to absorb. It's running off onto the concrete, and it causes flooding. All right, the second cause of biodiversity loss is the introduction of non-native species. All right, so kudzu, the vine that ate the South. You've probably seen it on it was brought during the Great Depression to try to save the soil from eroding during the Dust Bowl, and it just takes over. It's native to Japan. It was used to stabilize hillsides, minimizing erosion, but it has no natural predators in the U.S. And the vines in our area can grow up to 1 foot per day. And excessive growth has engulfed forests, killing everything. There's a huge patch of kudzu just around the corner from school, and it just takes over. All right, let's look at Dutch elm disease. It's a fungus that is spreading across North America that is taking over, that was passed on crates made from elm wood. It spreads by insects or root to root, and it's leading to the death of trees and impacting our environment. All right, the third cause of biodiversity loss is biomagnification of pesticides. So bioaccumulation is the buildup of pesticides in the tissues of organisms. An example is DDT in fish that was found by Rachel Carson. What it was is we were spraying DDT to get rid of our mosquitoes because they were so awful, and we sprayed it a lot. And what happened is we started finding DDT building up in our fish. We have that problem with mercury right now too. All right, so we have biomagnification is, like I said, increasing the concentration that moves up in the food chain. Effects of biodiversity loss. First, we have endangerment or extinction of species. We all know a lot about endangered species and extinct species, but our regulations right now are not providing adequate protection. We are also losing valuable medicinal and crop plants. There's a lot of things out there that could help us, and it's dying off because all we're doing is planting one type of potato or one type of banana. And then there's just a lack of genetic variety, which makes crops more susceptible to disease. For example, we're about to lose a lot of bananas because we're only planting one breed of banana, and it's now getting a disease. So what are we going to do? Are we no longer going to have bananas? I know my daughter would be very unhappy with that. So what can you do? First, you can spread awareness and just make small changes. And some specific suggestions: you can reduce your dependence on fossil fuels by carpooling, catching public transit. You can recycle whenever possible. You can limit the use of chemicals at home, and you can make consumer choices such as supporting green businesses.